Good morning. We are here today on October the 8th and sitting here on a very lovely rainy morning, which we haven't seen much here in Central Texas. And we're here at the home of Harold and Florine Lord. This is part of the Blanco Oral History Project. My name is Martha Herden, and I'm going to be having a chat with these two lovely people who a lot of people around Blanco tell me that they call them the mother and father of Blanco, Texas. And I think I know why, because they have done so much for the children here in our community. Florine, how did you meet Harold?
On the baseball field, softball.
Was he playing baseball?
I was playing.
You were playing.
He was the umpire.
What struck your nerve about this young man?
I don't know, because he was a cowboy, I guess.
And Harold, did Miss Florine catch your attention?
Yes, she did.
How did she catch your attention?
Because she was wearing the green checkered shorts.
And those shorts caught your attention.
That's what caught my attention.
How did you approach Miss Florine for a date?
Can't remember that. I don't even know. Maybe
Do
she
you?
does. I don't know.
I don't remember either.
I know it was. I didn't know her until after I came back out of the war.
So, you met each other at the baseball game. Did you start dating right then?
Yes.
I think pretty soon, pretty quick. Sometimes not that one day, but after that. I think.
What did your parents think of Harold?
What
did your folks think about Harold?
they liked him because his mother and daddy lived in West Off, and we liked them. So mother and daddy liked them. So.
And Florine, tell me where you were born at, and where were you born?
In Gonzales County.
What year?
1924.
So that makes you about how young are you?
87.
87. And did you go to school there?
Went to school in West Off and graduated in Cuero.
Did you live on a farm?
Yes.
And so we definitely call you a country girl. You know just what all to do on the farm?
Right. Mother and Daddy had 3 girls, and I was the boy of the family.
Were you the youngest or oldest?
Oldest.
So when you say you were the boy, tell me what all you did.
I did, you name it, and I did it.
So the day started early.
I helped Daddy put up hay, and I was scared to death when they, used to, they'd put them up on stacks. Is that what they called it?
It was sharp.
Shucks. And I was afraid I was going to fall off.
I bet.
Going around the thing.
And I bet the days were very long, weren't they?
Right. Real long. Milk cows.
Pump water.
Pump water for the cows. I hated that.
Did you want
I'd run them off thinking that I wouldn't have to pump no more, but they'd come right back.
Did you want to leave the farm and go to college?
Yeah, but we didn't have no money to go to college.
Harold, where were you raised at and where were you born at?
I was born in DeWitt County, farm ranch.
And I believe you're born about the year of 1920?
1920, November 1920.
So we're sitting here and that puts you about what age?
Well, I guess it'd be 90.
90. You grew up on a farm.
Right.
And did you do basically the same sorts of things that Miss Florine did?
Not really. Mostly I did was on ranch, and we didn't do any farming. And then after we left, when I was way after born, we finally moved into a little town of West Off when I started school at the first grade, and then we stayed there in the town while they were doing the depression, and my father had quit ranching and he was winning a truck driver, hauling, working on roads. So then we stayed there until 1932, and he got a ranch foreman job in Wilson County, which was out from Nixon. And then we moved there in 1932, and I was in the 6th grade, and I went to a little school called Pandora. And from there, and they taught through the 9th grade. And in the 10th and 11th grade, I went to Nixon, in Texas, and graduated there in 1938.
Did you want to go to college?
Yes, I did.
What did you want to do at college?
What I want to do, I wanted to be a rancher. I wanted to be in agriculture. And
And that's what you did?
so I went there and took some agriculture courses at A&M, and for 1 year, and then I switched over to wildlife management. And so then I just went to college for 2 years and then run out of money.
Were you the only one in your family to go to college?
Yes. I had one sister. So.
How did your family feel about that?
Well, they didn't want me to go to A&M because at that time they really couldn't afford it. My father was making $60 a month.
Wow.
And so then I had to finally borrowed $60 to go to college. And
$60.
I paid for the year, $30.30 a semester for matriculation fee.
We think about $60 then for college and what it costs now to go to college.
Right, that's
It's
true.
amazing.
So then I went there and then 2 years and came back and worked in Nixon in a filling station for several months, and then when we opened up some jobs down in Corpus Christi, that's when a friend and I went down there and got a job there.
Florine, what were your parents like?
Well, mother worked all the time at odd jobs.
Mm-hmm.
She worked in the cafeteria at the school, made cookies for the little kids. And Daddy worked odd jobs along with his foreman.
Mm-hmm. And it's known around Blanco that you are an exceptional cook. Who'd you learn to cook from?
Well, I guess from Mother, she was a good cook. I can't make bread like she did, and I can't make rolls like she did.
Do you get close?
Well, sometimes, not all the time.
Were you able to get some of the recipes?
I have a bread recipe. I don't have a roll. Well, I do have a roll recipe too.
Harold, what were your folks like?
Well, after we moved on the ranch, she was just a ranch mother, a ranch
My
wife,
wife.
and my father ran this 20,000-acre ranch, and so then she got us ready to go to school, and we had a 1932 truck, that all the kind of vehicle we had, and we lived, 6 miles from the town, and so she stayed pretty much out in the country, and she raised some turkeys and raised some chickens, and had a garden and done that, and that's the way we lived and eat. But she was a very religious woman, and she always managed to go to church.
Right.
Somehow that was Sunday. And
Let me ask you, you told me about the two of you meeting at the baseball game, but then I heard you speak about the war coming on. Did you marry before you went to the war?
no, after
After the war. So did you keep in touch with each other by letters?
I didn't know her. I didn't know her.
No one
You just got a glimpse of this gal in the shorts and that was it?
I started it in 1946.
And you came back home and she was still here?
Well, yeah, she was I didn't know her before then, but when I moved back, because I wasn't living in Westhoff at the time, but my folks had moved back there while I was in the war to Westhoff, so when I came back in 46, and that was in January, and time softball season started, I was playing ball, and then that's when I met her in that ball game.
So when you started courting, about how long did that courting take before you decided it was time to get married?
Well, in the latter part of 46.
Twice. Yeah, I've been married in 47.
You
Didn't
knew,
take long.
you knew he was the one?
Yeah.
Did you have a big wedding?
No.
We went to the preacher's house.
Went to the preacher's house.
Down there.
And so when you both got married, where did your life start at then? There in Westhoff?
Now, when we got married, I was working on a ranch down in Refugio County in Tyvola, and so then we got married, and we got married in Quirrell, and went to Victoria, spent one night on a honeymoon and went back to the ranch the next day and went to work.
And started working.
Started working.
And it was pretty good you married a lady that knew how to work on a farm and a ranch.
And then when she helped me, went on the ranch, I was riding horses and running cattle.
So you rode horses? Mm-hmm. Wow. Harold, I want to make sure I don't miss this, that you were in the, you served in the Air Force, you told me.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, just briefly.
Well, and when I went into service, then I volunteered and went into service and then stationed at Randolph Field, and then they found out that I had worked on PBY airplanes, which was an airplane that lands on water or land.
Uh-huh.
And so then they decided they was going to start, the Army was, or Air Force was starting an air rescue. So then they formed one, so then they put me in the airplane, and they also formed a boat air rescue at the same time. But anyway, I was in there because I knew about the airplane. So then they shipped me to Mississippi to Keesley Field. And then we trained 5 other things and sent those overseas, and then we went over as this last one, as the 6th Emergency Rescue Squadron. Mm-hmm. And that was in 40, when I was there, but we went over in 45, I guess, in March of 45. And I went to the Philippines first, and then on up to Luzon, to Aishima, which is above Okinawa, mm-hmm. and stayed there until the war was over, and then we went on in Japan for a while. And then, well, that time we had enough points, and we came back to Okinawa, and then caught a ship and came home. And I got home and on the next day after Christmas in San Francisco in 1945.
Wow.
And then in 46 I got discharged in San Antonio on January the 9th of 1946. What
was your general opinion of the war? Just what did you think?
I thought, it was a thing that everybody liked. I didn't like the war, but we took it as a job, and to me it was just like a job. Mm-hmm. Although there was some shooting going on, I wasn't involved too close, and although the boy didn't get sniper shot in the tent where we stand, but killed him. But other than that, I liked it, really, to tell you the truth. It was mm-hmm. just another job on the way away from home. And back in those days, we didn't have a whole lot to eat before we went, and we were getting fed. And
you got fed better.
Better there, and so.
Do both of you, I gather, you both recall when Pearl Harbor was bombed?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what that was like to be realizing that was happening.
Well, it was scary, really.
What were you thinking?
I don't know what I was thinking.
Harold?
Well, I was thinking a friend and I was in a movie in Corpus Christi when they announced that the war, that they bombed Pearl Harbor. Uh-huh. So then we all run out the street, and then he and I both worked for the civil service at the air base, so we figured, well, they're going to send us overseas right quick. So we didn't know what we're thinking. We thought, well, we should have gone to war the next day, but we didn't, and it just kind of went on just like it was normal there for us until that was in December, and it was September of 42 before we decided we just volunteered, because we could get an exemption because we wasn't working but we decided we'd go anyhow.
You did your duty.
We did.
Well, thank you, Harold, for serving. God bless you. When you both got married, what were your hopes? What did the two of you want to try to accomplish? Did you want a big ranch? Did you want a big family? What did you want?
Well, we probably wanted a family, which we didn't get, but we had more than anybody. Mm-hmm. And Harold always wanted a ranch, but we didn't do that either.
Well, I've worked for for people that were since from that when I went back to working, and I've been still working on a ranch.
You mentioned that you don't have any children, but when we started, I said that people call you the mother and father of Blanco. Why do you think they call you that?
Well, we like children, and we take in all the school functions as we are able to, and it seems like we know a lot of kids. We know them. We've come to grow up from the little ones to to there, we're lucky enough to have lived as long as we have, so we've seen people start out as little kids and go all the way up and married and have kids, and so they just all fit in with us, and seem like that the young people have always taken us in as, I don't know what they took us in, what they took us in and let us be with their kids.
With their kids.
Yes. When did you move to Blanco?
In 1950, in June of 1950.
Was it always here?
No, we lived on a ranch, on Loma Ranch down. We moved from, when we first moved to Blanco County, we moved on to Loma Ranch down on 281.
Loma.
Loma.
How did you manage to be able to move to that ranch?
Well, I decided I was going to leave the job on the ranch. I was down at Tyvola. Well, then the fella in San Antonio that had Callison store, he had a program that he kind of placed people's name on the thing every morning, and the ranchers found out about it. And so when a fellow that heard about it, that knew me, he taught me at A&M. So then he knew this fellow was looking for a ranch manager on the Loma Ranch. So then he called him, and we came up and got together, and I got the job, and so then we moved on the ranch. And rest of Hereford Ranch.
Moved on July the 4th.
So it's kind of like you just have gone from one ranch to another to another.
Yeah. And she's always lived a long way from town. And then she never did like that too much, but she was good enough to stay with me while I was on the ranch, and that's because I loved the ranch, and it didn't make a difference where I was, but she had a hard time wanting to stay that far away from town. She liked people more than I did.
That's obvious that you both love people. A little research that I did on your ancestors, Harold, tells me that they were all into ranching, farming, stock raising, so it kind of runs in your blood.
Right.
How did you wind up at this location right here, in this home that you're living in?
Well, Elizabeth Gallagher, and her mother owned it. And Elizabeth and I were kind of buddies. And so I told her one day, I said, if you ever decide to sell your house, give us a chance at it. And she said, okay. So then when her mother had to go in the nursing home, well, then they sold it. And we were able to buy it.
And Harold, if I'm not mistaken, out behind the house here, you still are able to do a little bit of farming because you have some hay.
Raise hay, yeah.
That's right, because I can actually call both of you our neighbors.
Right.
How did you, once you got to Blanco, did you immediately start getting involved with the school activities and being around the children?
Pretty much.
I think so.
When we first moved here, when we came up to a football game that fall, first fall in 50. And so they was playing six-man football.
Six-man football.
And so we parked there, and we just stayed around the field. They didn't have seats, so we parked there and watched it a little while. And I had played football, and I played 11-man football in Nixon, and so I didn't even know what they were doing. And everybody was running with the ball and catching the ball, and so I told Florine, let's go home. I'm not going to come there anymore. So we didn't ever come back to the school to the ball game until they changed over to 11-man. When they changed over to 11-man, and
How long was that?
I can't remember exactly when they changed over. It must have been like 53 or 4 somewhere in there.
So, see, you taught me something. I didn't know that Blanco had six-man football, but it makes sense.
And when we first came, the superintendent was one that had been in Westall.
You're kidding me.
That's right. I can't think of his name.
Now, that is a coincidence.
Right. What was his name? You remember?
Huh? What?
No, it wasn't Huck.
No, she was.
But we always got a paper wherever that was the first thing we did was pick
Got
up
a newspaper.
And I saw that name, I thought, golly, he taught in Westall. Reckon that's the same one. And I decided it must be a son. But I went up to the school and know it was him, Helms.
Helms.
Ned
Helms.
Helms.
And that's a long time ago. They were, at that time, I'm sure we're still using what we call the old part of the
Old
school right
building,
now.
right.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So in your time, you've seen a lot of changes come to the Blanco School District, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you feel about those changes?
Well, I always am for change. I mean, if it's for the better of the country or the town or whatever, I like it. I'm not one to stay as is and leave it like it is.
Right.
But, I mean, I like things like it was, but I know it can't stay that way
No.
and prosper. So anytime it's for the betterment of the country, I would rather for.
If you were to take a guess, how many football games do you think you've traveled to?
Oh, gosh.
I don't have any idea.
I know
We
you've
used
been
to
at,
go to all the football games and away from home and not, but now we've got where we don't go away. We try to make all the home games, but we don't go baseball and football.
baseball and
some
football.
some volleyball. But
Some
we haven't been to
basketball.
volleyball the last 2 years.
I know that you've been at some of the state playoffs that we've had.
Yes, we have.
All of them.
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
And those have been good.
Yeah.
What do you think the kids think of you? Because they all see you all the
I
time.
don't have no idea. I hope they like us. I
Right.
hope
They
they
do.
like us and respect us but
They do.
We've seen a lot of them go through the line that we've been awful proud of. Blanco is,
Produce some fine children.
right,
really,
And then you've also seen some sad times in Blanco too,
Right.
haven't you?
right.
Lost some good friends.
we've got some kids that went through school here that's done awfully well in their life afterwards, and it makes us feel good that we think that we've had a little bit of a part in their life.
You've had a very big part, Harold and Florine. You both have. You're both involved with the Methodist Church.
Right?
Right.
And tell me a little bit about that. What all is it you do? Because from what I understand, you do quite a bit.
Florine does more than most people, but I used to do a little bit and served on the board for several years, and I still just go to church and leave it up to her to do the rest of it.
And what all do you do?
Well, I have some little people that's by themselves that I call every morning at 8 o'clock to be sure they made the night all right.
Uh-huh.
I've been on every board, I think, down there except the chairman of the board. I've worked with the kids.
I know I was reading.
Started fifth quarter.
You started fifth quarter.
Years ago.
Tell me a little bit about fifth quarter.
Well, the kiddos didn't have anything to do, you know, here in Blanco at that time.
After the football
and they
game.
still don't, you know, after the football game. So I just come up on the idea of having a fifth quarter. And all the churches have been just wonderful to work with it, you know.
And fifth quarter is basically the kids go over to one of the churches.
Right.
There's some food for them
Right.
and drinks, sodas.
Some of them have activities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for them. So I think it's helped.
It's a chance to keep the kids out of trouble.
And getting killed in a car wreck.
And getting killed in a car wreck is right.
Right.
If you could pick a particular child that sticks in your mind, is there one that you're the most proud of?
No, not really. I'm proud of all of them. But I could name off of several heads that that I'm proud of, but from the boys and Blanco girls, and what they've done.
What do you see for the future of the school here in Blanco? What do you think will happen? Say, if you were to say, let me look down 10 years. Let's do 5 years. 5 years, what do you see Blanco with the kids being like?
Well, I think it'll be growing. I just don't see no reason why it shouldn't grow. And we've got a good school, and
Very good school.
but I know we have problems that every school does, but I think we've handled that problem better than most schools do, and I look forward to keep growing and be. Maybe we'll get into it. Take me a while, I think, before we get into higher classification, but I don't know of any school that has done as well academically or even athletic as Blanco has for a small school.
I think
Well, I think a lot of that is Matt helps being there.
Well, thank
I hope he stays on as a trustee or a chairman of the trustees, because I think he's done a great job.
Thank you very much, Florine. That's very nice. I want to talk about basketball, because what a lot of people, some people know it. You're just not involved with high school basketball. There's another basketball team that you know all about.
Well,
Tell me about that basketball team.
I worked for the fellow that now, I worked for his father first, and now I work for the Peter Holt, which is the owner of the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me a little bit closer, so I'm involved in the Spurs, not involved in it other than going and watching them.
How long did you work for the Holts?
Well, I'm still working for the Holts.
You're wait a minute. At the age of 90,
I'm still working.
You're still working.
I go to ranch every day.
every day.
Every morning, I go out every morning.
And what do you do?
Well, I'm sort of a consultant as well as assistant, and to the management of it, I take care of the haying and fertilizing of the property there and wildlife.
So, how many Spurs games do you get to go to?
Well, it depends. Some years we go pretty often, and several, like 6, 7, 8, or 9. And some years we don't go that much, but
Have you been to any of the championship games?
yes, I have. Florine and I went to one actually championship game. I nearly go to all the playoff games, some of the playoff games. I never did go to exactly but one championship game.
Which one was that one?
I think it was 205, I think it
I
was.
like that.
What was that like?
Well, it was so, we were sitting right on the floor.
You were sitting on the floor?
Well, on the first seat right next to on the, what we call the floor, on the playing floor.
Well, I'm glad you had good seats here.
But we had a chair and there, but the people, the photographers and all that was sitting on the floor.
Right.
Right in front of us.
Uh-huh.
And you couldn't get moved because they was laying down and all the things. So it was so crowded and everybody was hollering and going on. But it was very exciting when the final bell rang.
But we went to 2 because don't you remember that one time they won and we were sitting up?
Oh, that's right.
We
Do
watched
you
it
have
make the
rumor has it that you have one of the,
I got 3 rings.
you have 3 rings
Yeah.
for the Spurs.
Yeah,
And that came from Mr. Holt.
yes, his whole.
Wow.
And then Florine's got
I've got 3 necklaces.
necklaces, same.
For their championships.
Yeah.
Well, that's obvious.
We don't have the 99, we have the 201, 5 and 7, I think, or whatever it is. 99, 203. I don't know what it, but I didn't get the 99, which was the first one, but I didn't get that.
Have you met any of the players over the
Yes,
years?
we have.
What is that like?
Well, they just like anybody else. I mean,
They're human beings.
they're human beings. They just was all nice.
They generally have a party out at the ranch
For the
before they
team?
start
Uh-huh.
their season.
When
And
they
we
kick
are-
off.
And we always go out there. And they bring their kiddos.
Oh, it's a very family
And-
atmosphere.
family.
Right.
That's
and
great.
And the Holts always have stuff for the kids to play with. The river's right there. Some of them swim if it's got water in it.
Well, I'm hoping that you can, and I think Mr. Holt's going to hopefully be involved with Blanco a little bit
Well, I hope so.
as the town grows.
I hope so.
Let me ask you both,